Hello, welcome to our webinar. My name is Sean Scanlon, Vice President for Advancement. It's great to have you here as we have a chance to visit with Father Tim O'Brien, SJ, class of '06 from Holy Cross. We're going to be talking about exploring the heart of our Jesuit Catholic mission today. And we really appreciate you joining us. We're coming off a wonderful celebration of the 100th anniversary of the St. Joseph's Chapel on campus. And it's a great time to do this. And so wonderful to have you here. My role is generally just to welcome everybody and say thanks for joining us, but also to introduce our moderators and our co-chairs of the President's Council, Donna Murphy O'Brien and Dick Lavey. So I'll welcome Dick and Donna to join us now on the screen and take it away from here. Hi, Donna. Hi, Dick. I'll hand it off to you.
Well, good afternoon. And today, Dick and I are soon going to be wrapping up our 3 years as co-chairs of the President's Council. And, it's been a wonderful experience. I have to say, Dick, we began in the darkness of COVID and came through and ended up with a wonderful event at the Boston Public Library and a football game where we almost beat BC the next day. So really, we came through a tough period for everybody, but I guess I am left with a feeling of gratitude for the incredible staff in advancement that we have worked through that make us look good, and of inspiration for all the members of the President's Council who we have had a chance to meet and really witness the tremendous generosity that they have in dedication to the college. So with that, Dick, your reflections. Yeah. Oh, and I have to say, Dick and I have been a team reunited after decades of knowing one another before, and you can tell the rest of the story, Dick.
Yeah, that part of why I'm so grateful for the last 3 years is just our reunion, if you will. Donna was a healthcare executive 25 years ago, and I was on the consulting side, and we ended up spending some time together. I can say that Donna's a tough negotiator. I was representing the seller, and she was representing the buyer, and but I had tremendous respect for you back then, and it's been an absolute treat to reconnect with you. And I'm going to embarrass you a little bit because you are one of the most generous spirits I know, and the school is blessed to have you engaged with them so deeply. You're generous with your ideas and your intellect and your network. Like you are one of the most you connect more people, and you find joy in finding people with common interests and putting them together. So it's been a real treat for me to kind of reconnect to that whole gestalt of who you are. Also for me, it's been a treat to hang around with so many people who have this crazy love for Holy Cross, and it's just inspired me to love our alma mater even more. So really great.
Well, now we're and Dick, our connection will continue since we had this bonding experience. It's been a wonderful experience. I guess we're here to preview our successors. Dick.
Yeah. So pleasure to introduce Peyton Schubrick from the grade class of 2015, and this announcement has been out there already, but we're thrilled just to say a little bit more about them. She's a scholar athlete, Holy Cross, a track star, and now an entrepreneur. So she's the CEO and founder of Six Bricks Recreational Dispensary in Springfield, Mass. So has started her own business, and we had the pleasure of working with her on our executive committee. So we know she's got a ton of passion, and she's full of ideas, and she's a challenger. So she's going to bring great things to the President's Council.
Yeah, and with the 50th anniversary of co-education, to have two women as co-chairs is just amazing. So I'd like to introduce Kathy Maggi, class of 1991, who is a managing director for corporate clients at JP Morgan Chase. And she was most generous as the co-chair of the Hope and Access very successful campaign for Holy Cross. So I'm sure that they want to build upon her great work for that, to take the President's Council leadership going forward. And as Holy Cross networks have it, it turns out Kathy and I are both from Garden City, Long Island, and both still live in Garden City, Long Island, and I can actually walk to her house. So we'll be staying connected in her new role as co-chair of the President's Council. So she's out there today. Welcome, Kathy. Peyton's on a plane, but we're really excited about the new leadership.
Yeah.
So I guess over to you, Dick. Oh, no, no,
No,
because
you're
next
gonna.
is me.
That's right.
Next is me. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, Father Tim O'Brien, who is from the class of 2006, and he is the Associate Vice President for Mission at the college, joined in 2021. So we haven't had him that long, but he's made an impact. And I have been the co-chair of the Mission and Identity Committee for the Board of Trustees, and I've been able to see Tim up close with his mission contributions to the college. So they have been tremendous, and he will soon be remissioned to South Africa because he completed his PhD and to continue his Jesuit training. So we will miss him, but we certainly hope that we see him again in the not too distant future back at Holy Cross. So I would like to welcome him on camera here and turn it over to Dick to begin the questions that have come. Well, Tim's going to make a few remarks, and then Dick will lead the questions.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks so much, and thanks everybody for joining us this afternoon on a beautiful day here in Worcester on Mount St. James. It's spring has finally reached us, as you all can probably remember. It takes its time, but the trees are in full flower, and we're getting ready to celebrate the remarkable accomplishments of the class of 2024 in just a few weeks. So it's a real delight to be here with you and to be able to share this time with you all. I'd like to thank Dick and, of course, my long lost cousin Donna Murphy O'Brien, not actually my cousin, but I like to keep that alive in some way, and to thank you guys for coordinating this. And I know we'll get into a little conversation and some questions in a few minutes. I was asked as beginning here on the webinar to offer a little bit of reflections on the 3 years, which feels at once a lot shorter and sometimes a lot longer, that I've been back at Holy Cross. So I came back to Holy Cross in 2021. So right as we were emerging from the pandemic. I remember that the day I moved back to campus, my first stop had to be to a testing center. Nothing says welcome back to alma mater like a nasal swab. But the experience really has been tremendously rich, and I've been very grateful to be able to be back at Holy Cross in this time. When I came back, one of my classmates who also works here, who actually sits right down the hall in finance and administration, said to me, welcome back. We're one of the many alums who came back to work here. And he said, just remember, it's just like going to visit Canada. And I said, what? He said, yeah, it's just coming back to work here as an alum is just like going to visit Canada. And I said, you're going to have to help me with this. He said, what I mean is it's 80% like you remember it at home, 80% like you remember it, and 20% different. So, and I realize now after 3 years of being here that I think that there's great truth in that the major kind of experience or the major invitations of being at Holy Cross are mostly as we remember them, including some of the people, and also that there are considerable areas of change, of growth, the way in which the world and as we'll talk about in a little while, and the church continue to change around us, and certainly the students and who come to work with or come to study here, and those who come to join us as faculty and staff colleagues, all of which I think are themes which will emerge in the course of our time today. So if you're in a role like mine with a title like Associate Vice President for Mission, the usual second question after you introduce yourself is, well, what do you actually do? So I came back to Holy Cross in a different role as Director of Mission Initiatives. And in that role was really responsible for the boots on the ground offering of programs and a range of initiatives, as the title suggests, specifically for faculty and staff to engage with the Jesuit and Catholic mission of Holy Cross. And so we have very specific programs in that area, which I could say more about if that's helpful a little bit later. And so at the conclusion of that first year, as the college did some organizational restructuring, was moved into the Associate Vice President role, in which I work closely with the Office of Mission and my successor as the Director of Mission Initiatives, Dr. Kyle Woolley, and then also with the Office of the College Chaplains, headed so capably by Mary Beth Kearns Barrett, and her wonderful team of chaplains who in the mission and ministry space, as we say. So a lot of what I have been tasked with doing is helping either restart something that the pandemic shut down, which is a lot of our efforts around development for faculty and staff, mostly because of personnel transitions, and then very simply, people weren't always here. And then the other piece of that is to really think about how, with the new, bold, and exciting vision that President Rougeau has set forth for us in Aspire, our strategic plan, to think about how to support the pillars of that plan, which touch most deeply the mission and ministry areas of campus. So I would signal the most specifically the second pillar about transformational student experience grounded in Jesuit Catholic formation, and then also the work that we do with our faculty and staff. I'll say more about this a little further on, about how to bring folks into an experience of what it means to work and to come to share life with, to really be part of your own life here at a college which is marked by a Jesuit tradition and a Catholic identity. So it's been a really exciting couple of years. I have done all of that, as Donna suggested, alongside finishing a doctoral degree, which I can't recommend in good conscience to anyone, but it worked for me. And I'm very excited. I was very excited by the news from my superiors that I've been sent to South Africa to finish my Jesuit formation. But as I think probably everybody on this call can imagine, it's deeply bittersweet to have to leave Holy Cross to do so. And I would maybe conclude before we move into thinking about some questions and talking about the Jesuit and Catholic mission today, just by saying that I remain fundamentally convinced. Someone said to me the other day, "What's the pebble in your shoe about your time at Holy Cross?" And I said, "The pebble in my shoe about Holy Cross is that the people make this place, and they always have." And I think if you're on this call, we're on this call because we know that that is true in our bones. And the people are many people. The people are, I think, in many respects, our classmates, those who we meet here and who become friends for life. It's true of our tremendous faculty and staff who change lives on this hillside. And I think it's true also of the alumni community that so robustly supports what we do here day in and day out, but which also is such a tremendous net to alums like myself and like the 800 some students who will graduate in just a week's time, or a week and a half at this point. So I'm really delighted to be here. I know that there are some questions, so I don't want to blather on too long. My mother would say keep it brief. And so I'll, Dick, I think you're up with the first question, perhaps. I think you've compiled some of them.
That's right. Yeah, make sure I'm not yeah, so thank you. Thanks for that, Father Tim. It's you will be missed dearly, I know, on campus, but excited to hear more about your next year and your mission. But also want to just, before we go to the first question, just say thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We had a lot of thoughtful questions, frankly, too many that we can answer. So the response was really robust, which shows the passion for this topic and subject, and to hear from you, Father Tim. So nevertheless, we think we did a really nice job of selecting questions that represent a nice range of the different issues that were raised. So the first one, Father Tim, gets right kind of to the point about the perception of the college's Jesuit identity, and that is, how would you answer claims that Holy Cross is no longer Jesuit, no longer Catholic?
Well, Dick, you're going right for the heart of the matter there, huh? No softball for the beginning, I guess. But you permit me, I hope today, personal answers as well as professional ones. So I would begin actually with a personal response to this question, and it is honestly one of surprise. Usually, when a question like this comes to me, personal surprise, because I remember things like this being said when I was a student from 2002 and 2006, but here kind of around the way. And I have to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that had I not come to Holy Cross, I certainly would not be a Jesuit or a priest. I feel very confident in saying that. And I'm not sure in the cross pressures of my life that I would still be Catholic. I just look at my friends. I look at the people I grew up with, like who had a similar Catholic upbringing outside of Philadelphia as myself, and who, for one reason or another, for one circumstance or another, had a very different outcome than I did in terms of faith and vocation, obviously, but faith. And I think that some of my surprise is that I guess if it's no longer Catholic or Jesuit, I was clearly just not paying attention or not paying enough attention to that reality. But I think I was paying quite close attention. And some of the people for me who first raised questions of meaning and belonging and faith were certainly theology professors, were chaplains, were Jesuits. But I got to tell you, the first person here who asked me if I ever thought about being a Jesuit was a political science professor who was Jewish, and a very devout Jew who saw in me, I guess, something that I didn't see in myself. Now, there's a longer story. It took me a couple more years. I've always been a slow learner to kind of get there. But there's the origin of some of my surprise that at a place like this, where a faculty member who has literally no skin in the game in multiple respects would think to ask a question like that, I think it doesn't speak to me of a place that's no longer Catholic or Jesuit. And I know that continues to happen. I'll say more about that in just a few moments. I think some of the other surprise Sean mentioned in the beginning, when I think about this question, is 2 weeks ago we had the St. Joseph Memorial Chapel, which for me is just the most spectacular space on this campus. And as we've said, the spiritual heart of Holy Cross. Full to the brim to celebrate 100 years of that space and what it represents in the life of the chapel. Full in 2024, full today, right? And some of that, of course, was alumni and friends, but a lot of it, more than half of it, was students, and students who see, who understand, who engage, who love both the Jesuit and the Catholic identity of this place. I think it surprises me when I think about something I was doing last week. So one of the most popular courses on campus is a course on Gregorian chant, which I would not be brave enough to try and do, which is the medieval chant of the church that culminates in our students. I particularly love the football players participating in this, chanting Vespers, the evening prayer of the church in Latin in that church. With their classmates and friends and supporters and coaches and everybody watching on. So again, there's a disconnect here for me with the question. And I think too, when I look back on the number of people who leave Holy Cross and who pursue vocations in religious life and in the priesthood, and not only in the Society of Jesus, that's not true everywhere. That's not true even at most of the Jesuit schools that I've had the privilege of working at in other places. But it's still true here. And there is something that we are doing that I think speaks profoundly to students who are Catholic, certainly, but not just. And it speaks profoundly also to people and young people who are searching for meaning, not outside the church, but within it. And I'm really proud of that. I've been really proud to participate in that in my own meek and mild ways in the last couple of years here. Now, what I think is being said, and I'll stop soon, I promise, Dick, you're probably looking at the clock, but is, Holy Cross is not Jesuit or Catholic. And then we leave out the in the way that I remember it, in the way that I remember it. And that is almost certainly true. That is certainly true. So the experience of someone who came to Holy Cross in the 1960s before the Vatican Council, after the Vatican Council II, certainly through the 70s and 80s, the experience that was marked mine when I was here of the sexual abuse crisis in the church, our experience of being Jesuit and Catholic is not static. And I think that that is true not only of this college, that is true of our parishes, that they're not quite Catholic in exactly the same way. It's true of our families. And I do want to mention this. I know that a lot of times when I get this question, there's pain and there's confusion about folks who still find tremendous amount of meaning in their faith and look at maybe subsequent generations of their children or their grandchildren who don't practice. And that gets kind of projected onto a school like Holy Cross as, what are you doing to stop that trend? And I understand that in a familial way. I see it in my own family. But the truth of the matter is that the challenge of the work that we do intellectually and in terms of faith formation is really to welcome and to walk with the students who come to us, because they are open to questions of faith, of believing, and of belonging. And they're doing so in ways where the cultural supports that many of us knew have eroded. I feel in some sense bad for them, and then they inspire me. And I want to end today by talking about the ways in which they inspire me. So, some thoughts for that question out the gate.
Yeah, that's great. You know, it's heartwarming to hear that the chapel is still full to the brim. I remember it well on Sunday night mass back in the '80s, where we had to get there very early to get a seat. You know, so it was alive and well then too. So with fewer Jesuits on campus than when most of us were students, how does Holy Cross retain that Jesuit Ignatian charism, you know, with a smaller number of Jesuits around? How do we respond to that?
Yeah, so I think this is especially true for those who maybe knew Holy Cross in the era of the Jesuits living in Loyola Hall, which I think peaked at 110. I heard earlier today. That's a long black line, and by the time I was here, we were in the 30s, and now the permanent community sits at 11, and it's in fact about to grow. So I understand the question, but let me first say something about Jesuit presence here at Holy Cross. And I'm very, very pleased to announce, or many of you have heard this already, that next year we'll have 3 new Jesuits joining the community at Holy Cross, all of whom qualify as young Jesuits. That is to say, all of them are 50 or under. And that is very rare, because the reason that Jesuit presence has dwindled not only at Holy Cross, or diminished not only at Holy Cross but elsewhere, is the simple fact that there are fewer Jesuits around. So for us to be able to welcome 3 new Jesuit priests next year is a great vote of confidence, I think, in Holy Cross and what we're doing from the Jesuits, from the Society of Jesus. And I think it's also a proof that we're beginning to make progress in a goal that not only President Rougeau and our provost Elliot Visconti have, and myself, we share, which is to make Holy Cross a destination of choice, especially for Jesuit academics, right? There's some challenges with that, which is, one of them is the pool, the size of the pool. The other is that they tend to be in very similar disciplines where we already have a number of Jesuits on campus. But we'll welcome Father Keith Maskowitz, who has been here before, actually twice, in Office of the College Chaplains, who will succeed me as Associate Vice President for Mission and Ministry. We'll also welcome a tenure-track professor in religious studies, a theologian, who's just completing a term on our board of trustees, who apparently liked what he saw and liked it so much that he wanted to come and work here, Father Peter Nguyen. And we're welcoming back an alum of Holy Cross, Father Brent Otto, who's a historian finishing his PhD at the University of California, Berkeley, who'll be with us for a couple of years. So I will say more about what we do as Jesuit numbers diminish, or that reality, but I also want to highlight good news in that respect, and which has been the work of many of us in the community, and certainly with the support and encouragement and full backing of, as I said, our president and our provost. I think that one of the ways that this, so one of the ways of thinking about the increased prevalence of talking about mission is that somehow we all realized that we had to think about mission as there were fewer and fewer Jesuits around. And that's kind of true, but not really. So we'll talk today also about the mission statement of the college. And I think that this idea of focusing on the mission of institutions, the mission of corporations, and each of our role in it, really began in lots of places in the 1990s, including at Holy Cross. And so there is a real clear sense, and there's a real clear call from the Society of Jesus and from the Church to understand that we are very much that everyone who works here, everyone who's on the board here, everyone who comes here is a part of the community and tasked with helping carry that mission forward. Not only the mission of the College of the Holy Cross as a world-class liberal arts institution, but also the mission of the Society of Jesus in education. So what we do, we have to offer. Now, 2 things are true, right? So that is true. And it's also true that most people who come to us increasingly come to us without a frame of reference for what it means to be Jesuit, certainly, and many come with a particularly challenging image, I would call it sometimes a prejudice of what it means to be Catholic. And so part of the work that we do now, that we have to do now, that we're delighted to do now, is to offer people the opportunity to engage with those traditions thoughtfully and at depth across the span of their career here. And this was the work that I mentioned that I started, and my colleague Kyle Woolley carries forward with great gusto and great success and great interest here at the college. So thinking about how we first expose the mission to those who are thinking about applying and working at the college, new faculty members who are coming to interview for positions. And it carries through from the first touch through the welcome to campus, and trying to move toward leadership for those who will really become mission leaders in our community. So that's new work, and it's not just new work at Holy Cross, it's new work across Catholic education, Catholic higher education in particular. Donna knows a lot about Catholic healthcare. It's a huge topic there as well. And it's work where we are really growing and really seeing, I think, the beginnings of some really important fruit that's being gleaned.
Great, thank you. All right, Donna.
So just to tell you, just a small piece of that. One of the questions that came in within the big picture, what Catholic means, is the practice of our faith, and how the practice of our faith at Holy Cross in terms of Mass and sacraments is going. What do we do to promote that, and what level of interest is there in Mass and the sacraments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. It's one I get a lot, and I think, if I understood the question, it was a question about promotion, a question about offering. It's also a question about how do we emphasize it. And I would just start by saying and framing my remarks by saying the first thing that students encounter when they come to Holy Cross is the Mass of the Holy Spirit. The first thing. After that swarming, how to put this, that swarming team of Holy Cross orientation leaders and athletes who descend upon your car and move all of your worldly possessions up into your room in one of the hill dorms, usually. The first time our community gathers, and the second to last time the community gathers, is a Mass. That's not self-evident, and it's a deliberate choice that we make. Because at many Jesuit colleges and universities, including historically Holy Cross, actually, the Mass of the Holy Spirit would have been celebrated at another point in the beginning of the fall semester, perhaps when everybody was here. But it's important for us to communicate several things. First is that this is who we are. That there's a very clear identity to Holy Cross. It's not just a tradition that's in the past, but that people are being invited into a community of faith, whether or not folks identify as Catholic, and that to be Catholic here at Holy Cross has certain meaning that involves openness, that involves dialogue, that involves all of the things that we know and love and sometimes feel challenged by at Holy Cross. So I would start with that, and I don't think it's incidental. Some institutions where I have worked, Mass of the Holy Spirit is sometime right before the first week of classes, once everybody's back. Sometimes to fill the church, people have to be required to go, which will sound familiar if anybody on the call was here in the 1950s. That's not really what we're trying to do these days, but at Holy Cross, it is a powerful moment of community. It is a powerful moment of family, both at the Mass of the Holy Spirit and at the Baccalaureate Mass the day before commencement, which we'll celebrate 2 weeks from today, in fact. So I just want to say, if we're talking about emphasizing, I don't want to underestimate the fact that that is what we do. And that is the way, that is the rite of passage that we welcome and begin to say goodbye to our Holy Cross students who will become our Holy Cross alumni. That's not an accident. And I think that when we get down into the experience on the ground during the week and during the semesters, I like to say, I was a parish priest for a year. I like to say that we have more masses at Holy Cross every day than I did in my parish where I worked. So every day on this campus at 12:05 noon and at 9 p.m., there's Mass offered in the McCooey Chapel, one of the most beautiful contemplative spaces on this campus. Every day, which is almost true in almost no parish, we offer confessions from 8 o'clock to 8:45, which the last time I did, I could say without breaking the seal, was back to back for an hour. And with great fervor, and I think that's a consistent experience. We offer two masses, two principal masses on the weekend. That schedule has changed since most of us were here, because 10 p.m. and certainly 11 p.m. on a Sunday night is a little tough for the Jesuit community, even for the 40-year-olds. So we now offer an 11:30 and a 7. And I have to say, and we're still trying to figure out what's going on here, but the 7 in particular this year has been, because it's downstairs in the Mary Chapel, has been standing room only on more than one occasion, in fact, regularly. And, usually we see that at certain strategic points when prayers must be offered for good grades. So the beginning of the semester or the beginning of finals. This time we're seeing it in the middle of the semester. So there's something happening here, and it's very exciting. This question is really about sacraments, so let me just also go out of my way to say we continue to see really robust interest in both converting to Christianity here and to joining the Catholic Church or coming into full communion with the Church or being confirmed. So just this year, in fact, we had 12 students who went through those various rites, 3 who were baptized, 5 who were received into the church, and 4 who were confirmed by Bishop McManus just a few weeks ago with our partners. It rotates, but over at Assumption University. And maybe lastly, I mean, I could go on, but I don't want to hog the mic just telling you all about the sacraments and stuff on campus, although I'm happy to. We also have weekly adoration, Eucharistic adoration in St. Joseph Memorial Chapel on Thursday nights. There's groups of students who gather for the Rosary, for the devotions, many of whom are associated with the Society of Saints Peter and Paul, who gather for talks and for conversation around faith on a weekly basis, in addition to the Soul Squads and many other opportunities to explore faith on this campus. So I might pass out if I keep going, so I'm just going to we not only emphasize, but we offer warmly, and we open here what we are called to do by not only Society of Jesus and the Church, but by our mission statement, which is to form an active, dynamic, worshiping community. And I think we do that very well and very well.
Great, thank you. So you talked about the mission statement earlier in some of your commentary, and we did get a couple questions about that. So we'll stay on this theme. The question was really around the fact that the words Jesuit and Catholic are not conjoined in the first sentence of the official mission statement. So maybe you could say a few words about that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. The mission statement of the college, the process that culminated in its being drafted began when I was 4 years old. So in 1988, Father John Brooks, the late great Father John Brooks, began a process of asking the college to reflect on and to develop the mission statement that was not accomplished by administrative fiat. It was accomplished by the dialogue and discourse that mark the place then and now. So in 1988, he started that process, and which took several years. This is higher education, and we work by committee. So the mission statement that we see today as the mission of Holy Cross was approved in 1992. I just want to emphasize that. It was a long time ago, and it has not been modified since. So the mission statement is not constantly revised here, as it is in many places. It's not determined in a boardroom with the executive team sitting around and trying to come up with catchy slogans for who we are. It is a living document that was approved not only with dialogue between faculty and staff and students, with Jesuits and trustees. It was a multi-year long discussion that happened, right? So I just want to kind of highlight that, because that's not always the case. We live in a time where everybody has a mission and vision statement, but many places change them almost hourly to reflect the whims of the moment, and that is not true at Holy Cross. In fact, I think that it got nearly unanimous support in the faculty assembly when it was here. Speaks to the accuracy of it, to describe what we do, and also the vision for who we're trying to be into the future. I think that the particular question that you pose, and I do want to address it just directly, is rooted in an emerging custom of saying Jesuit Catholic, right? So if you're specifying the mission Holy Cross or any other AJCU or Jesuit university places will say sometimes Jesuit Catholic with a comma in between, or maybe a hyphen between, or however you want to do that. And that is a later custom that has emerged, right? So again, this was approved in 1992. That practice, in my seeing in the network, emerges considerably later. And I would say candidly that I think the need to specify that is more apparent now than it was then, right? So as patterns of practice, of religious practice in the United States, I think as religious literacy has changed, that now needs to be stated much more, perhaps forcefully. The truth of the matter is that for the Society of Jesus, for the Jesuits, there is no Jesuit without Catholic, period, full stop. And that's what I say all the time in my work here. And even if, of course, as we know, different religious congregations have different ways of kind of articulating the Catholic nature of their charism. So I would also just want to signify that in that first sentence of the mission statement, the college is identified and identifies itself self-consciously in service of the church, not only the church, the wider world and American society as well, but Jesuit is never divorceable from the particular expression of the Catholic Church. And I think later on, and these are in that same document, these are paragraphs that I think about a lot, because there are two places where the word special is used in the mission statement. So you have to read it closely, and I read it closely, as Donna knows, almost on a weekly basis. Special appears with respect to our obligations to the poor and powerless, which is, as we all know, a gospel commitment that is very much in line with the teachings of Jesus Christ. And second is a special obligation to engage in the life of the church in three special ways, three particular ways. One is to offer an encounter with the Catholic intellectual tradition in our curriculum and in what we teach here, to form that active worshiping community, which is named there in black and white on this campus, and to therefore to engage in the life and work of the church. So I understand the question, and I think it's in some ways originates with a later need that we've seen, but at least by my reading, and I think it's a fair one. The emphasis that Holy Cross makes to be Catholic in the mission statement is clear, is very clear, and I think still compelling. So I don't know if that exhausts the question on the mission statement. I used to joke that sometimes people hear when they read it, they say, "Oh my gosh, it's so long. You're supposed to be able to memorize a mission statement." And then they look at ours and it's 4 paragraphs long. And it's like, well, welcome to Holy Cross. You're going to read a lot here. But when you think about the life of that document, it still has tremendous buy-in. It still has tremendous, I think, truth value. And one last thing, when Donna was there when this happened, but we had a conversation with some of our new trustees with the mission statement. And one of my favorite questions to ask is, when do you think this was written? And to a person, without knowing the history that I shared at the beginning of this remark, the folks who were in the room said, sometime since Vince Rougeau became president, which for those playing along at home is 2021. So Father Brooks managed to kick off a process that's yielded a statement that's withstood the test of time, and which I think still profoundly speaks to who Holy Cross is, or who we are, and what we're trying to do in the world.
Great, thank you.
Dick, why don't you just go right to the access to education question?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So
this next follows from this.
Yeah, this next question is a topic that's near and dear to all of our hearts, and Vince, of course, speaks about it frequently, and it's an important part of our strategy, our new vision. But the question is around how we plan as a college to continue offering a Catholic Jesuit education to the less endowed students and their families, right? Those less fortunate.
Yeah, so important, so important. Just last night, I was here in town, so I'll begin with the story again. But I was here in town for the award ceremony for the Diocese of Worcester's Adopt a Student program, and it was my great privilege to present to present kind of symbolically the scholarship to a young woman who has been educated all her life in Worcester Catholic schools, who relied on that program for tuition assistance from elementary school, for high school, and now will have a full tuition scholarship to come here to Holy Cross to continue her Catholic education, to get to meet her, to get to meet her family, of course, are just beaming with pride. But who have made the sacrifices themselves, even with somewhat more modest means, to really invest in a Catholic education. And I think it's just to underline both the commitment on our part, but also the importance of the endeavor, not just in Worcester, but beyond. From the very beginning, I like to tell this, especially when I talk to students and occasionally to parents. Jesuit education was supposed to be relying on endowments, and it was supposed to be relying on endowments to the level that it would be free. So the very first Jesuit schools were supposed to be tuition free, precisely because, and we have this in black and white from the earliest days, it would promote access. It would promote that parents would be able to send their children to fulfill their obligation to educate them, but that also we would be able to enroll students who come from more humble and disadvantaged backgrounds. And I think that's only becoming more urgent, right? So we are working mightily, as you know, and I think without revealing anything that would be too surprising, this is a huge area of focus for as we go forward and as we look forward to the next strategic plan and our next fundraising efforts is to be able to really help address access, right? We've had some notable successes in that in the last few years with the Hope and Access campaign and a very generous bequest from Agnes Williams. But really to put huge effort around increasing our access. Some of that may show up in surprising ways. So, for example, one way that we can do that is we can endow academic positions or endow salaries, which free up budget dollars to enable to support us, to support students who are coming to us and may need additional help. I also just want to say really quickly, looping back to that question about Catholic identity and Catholic mission, financial aid is not just tuition. Financial aid is not just tuition. And you might be saying, well, what else? Room and board? No. It's also the ability to invite students who might not have the spending money to participate in something like the retreat program, the spiritual exercises. It's to allow students to access the spring break immersion program, which is one of the formerly Appalachia for many of us who knew it now goes to places around the United States. We can't diminish the way in which students who have limited means also deserve to and must be accorded the ability to fully experience what it means to be at a Catholic and Jesuit college. And I think we've made great progress with that. I'm really proud of what's been done, certainly before my time and during the years that I've been here on that front. And then lastly, a plug maybe for my friends, and I think Christine Riendo is on here somewhere, but the Holy Cross Fund and our annual giving, which gives us real flexibility. Like we rely on those gifts of any size, as I shouted from a dunk tank last week to the senior class gift people. Any size gift counts, and it gives us flexibility not only for funding our academic programs and the bread and butter of Holy Cross, but also the kind of mission-focused initiatives that I offer and my colleagues in this division offer. So I can't say enough about that. I thank everybody who's on this call for supporting us in increasing access. And as you know, the best gift we can give is the gift of a Holy Cross education, that the gift we have received, we can hand on to the next generation.
Well said.
Great, thanks. I'm going to jump ahead in the interest of time, Dick, but I want to go to a more concrete question of tell us about your new home, the new Jesuit residence on campus. What's it like? What's it called?
Sure.
I want to hear about it.
Yeah. So earlier this year in July of July 23, the Holy Cross Jesuit community moved slightly uphill. So from Chompy Hall, which opened in 1993, I believe, maybe 92, right around the time of that mission statement, and into our new digs. So we now are the happy residents of a 10-bedroom house, which so there's the bedrooms, but it also has I think the most beautiful parts are the common spaces. So we have our chapel, which for any of you who have ever been into Chompy Hall or have seen the pictures, we also brought the stained glass with us, which graces that space. Common spaces for dining, obviously, and kitchen, but also enables us to host our colleagues from Holy Cross, to host students. spiritual direction rooms, because one of the major things that we offer, obviously outside of our academic commitments, is spiritual accompaniment. So we're really, I think, well set up there. The house itself is so there's the house itself, and then there are also 3 satellite houses in which members of the community, including myself, reside, which are also college properties, and they are also enable us to accommodate some guests when they come to town, Jesuit guests who join us from time to time. So, yeah, you mentioned the name. So one of the questions we get a lot, or I used to get a lot when we were moving, was, is the name going with you? And I used to say, I hope not, because it took me 20 years to learn how to properly pronounce it. I used to say it was Champy. You never quite knew. Is there an H in there somewhere? Can I buy a vowel? So obviously, Father Champy is a significant figure in the history of the college. But when we moved into the old house, it was just called the Jesuit Residence, and the Champy name came later. So currently, at least, the house where we reside is the Jesuit Residence. We're back to that way of speaking about it. And I have no particular specific information on other naming possibilities at this point. I know that my colleague Sean Scanlon is more than willing to speak with anyone who may be interested in honoring the presence and the mission of Jesuits and Ignatian spirituality here at Holy Cross with a naming gift. I would just note, for those of you who are on the call from home and maybe thinking about it, O'Brien Hall would be a very appropriate name. However, Donna, you'll be cheered to know that O'Brien Hall for the Jesuit Residence has been taken already by Marquette University. So it's going to have to be something else. And I see that Sean's camera came on. You may wish to say some more about that.
Do you have an update? Sean?
No, I disagree completely. I think honoring Donna that way is O'Brien Hall.
Thank you.
That's good.
So,
well,
Dick, you're next.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip. Yeah, I think I'll skip this question on Worcester. We feel like you referenced that in your prior answer, Father Tim. So maybe this is a great one. Just as you prepare to leave for your tertianship in South Africa, and you look back on your time on the Hill again, is there something, an initiative you're involved in, or sponsored, or an activity or an event that you developed that you're just really proud of, or you just will carry really deep in your heart and memories with you?
Yeah, well, I will carry really deeply in my heart the experience of being in a dunk tank last week for 20 minutes and being plunged into frigid Worcester water over 13 times in 20 minutes. So I feel like, I carry that.
You are well liked.
I guess it was a revenge for homilies that went on for too long. But on a more serious note, I think that some of the legacy that I'm most proud of has been some of the programs that I mentioned before, which we've started and really begun to systematize for our formation of faculty and staff, which is work we've been doing for a long time, but we've been doing it with a little bit of limited resources and with a lot of turnover, which I'm perhaps contributing to now, but we have it on a solid footing. I think that's super exciting. And I'm really proud of the work that we do there. And to be honest, I think I've been in the position of having to do some not so sexy, perhaps to speak that way, back office stuff to get a new division up and running and to have a new way of proceeding together. That's taken some work. It's taken some growth, and I am super proud of our people, the way we've engaged that, and the way in which I think we're really ready to embrace the vision of Aspire to help us lead even more fully into a transformative student experience that's rooted in who we are, which is Catholic and Jesuit. So I leave feeling like sorry for the glare. That's how I got bald here. But I feel like I will leave things better than I found them. And any of you who have ever left a job knows that that's the goal.
Yeah. Maybe a corollary to that, obviously, what makes your role so amazing and impactful is just the time you spend with students, interacting, individuals and groups. I mean, as you think about that, what gives you hope for the future? What sorts of amazing
I'm
things?
I'm gonna tweak my blinds. Hang on I'm gonna buy a minute to think about my answer to that question.
It looks like raised from heaven to me.
Yeah, it's God telling me to shut up and let people get on with their Thursday. I think that as I think about the hope, and I'm really happy you mentioned that word. I mean, our students come to us with such goodness and with such curiosity and with such fearlessness. I would say, it's my privilege to sometimes sit with students, and I find that they inspire me daily. And they mostly inspire me because they're not willing to let, like, how my generation and all of our generations have kind of like let some problems grow and fester. They're not willing to be bitter about it. They're willing to engage to try and make things better. That's true in the church. It's true in society. It's true even in Holy Cross. They're challenging us to be better, and that's very rarely comfortable, but it's very important. And it's who we say we are. It's who we say we are as Crusaders. It's who we say we are as Christians. It's who we say we are as men and women of Holy Cross. So,
yeah. That's awesome.
Well, I was just, I'm on the mission committee with Tim and others, but just on the faculty, Tim, and your work with the faculty, I've been so impressed interacting with them, how much has been like inculcated into them on faith and mission and real deep knowledge and commitment. It's been inspiring to me. People of all different science backgrounds, the unlikely disciplines that you think would embrace it. So your work in that area is so important, and there's a lot of receptivity. I mean, not everybody, of course, but a lot of receptivity to that. I'm sure that's, but what you've been finding.
And I would just say, one of the great elements of coming to work here at Holy Cross, we all want work that matters, right? We all want to have work that matters, not just to us, but to the world. And that's what we have to offer. And it matters not just to our students, it matters not just to their families, it matters not just to our country, but ultimately we believe it matters to God, who they are and who they become. And to be able to cast in with us to do that work doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
So one final question for us is graduation is upon us. And we have the rare opportunity to have a former valedictorian from the class of 2006, Father Tim O'Brien, who we thought it'd be fun to have you almost 20 years later reflect on what your thoughts were then and how they apply or are different than what you think would apply today. And so maybe you can send us off with a reflection.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that I would have gotten into, I said it last night, giving out the scholarship. Like, my hat's off to her, because I don't think I would have gotten in, let alone been the valedictorian these days. But I think that, what I had to say at that time, and I didn't want to be a Jesuit when I gave that speech, but it was about the Jesuit idea of the magis. It wasn't what I was thinking I would be doing, which is, of course, as folks know, the more, striving for the more, the greater. A kind of restlessness of heart and of spirit toward a greater love. And that is never going to go obsolete. And I think in the time in which we live in our society, in our church, even and certainly in our nation, our world, we need to be called to that kind of striving for a deeper love, a deeper charity, in the old word. And I think there are whole passages in that speech that I think I could get up and give unchanged 18 years later. And I'm not sure that that's whether that's a hopeful sign of its timelessness or a despair-filled sign of its enduring relevance. But I would encourage us all to strive for that greater, and particularly for a greater love, not only of Holy Cross, but of our brothers and sisters.
Well,
Awesome.
said, and a nice way. We have to end on ministerial things, but different kind of ministerial things. But thank you so much for this really rich discussion on what's going on at Holy Cross and your mission work. It's we did a survey early on, Dick, you'll remember, of why do people want to give and stay engaged with the college, and the answer is overwhelmingly because of its mission. So we knew this was going to be an important topic, and we're so happy we got you, shortly before you're leaving the continent for exciting things. And we wish you the best, and
absolutely
really want you to hopefully come back with your.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah. No, thank you, Father.
Thank you both. Yeah, it's great to be with you.
Yeah, your you said it earlier, just we all want to have impact in what we do every day. And it's just amazing the impact you have on individuals and groups and the community, Holy Cross as a college, our reputation. So really thank you for all of that.
It's been a great privilege, and I say it often because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I owe Holy Cross more than I could ever repay, and a lot of that is to the place, a lot of that's to the people, and I've been glad to try and at least cut into that debt a little bit for the last couple of years.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, here we are upon our hour. That went quickly, as it usually does. Very engaging. So thank you for all that tuned in to listen. Thank you for all you do for the school. You know this, but the President's Council has an amazing impact, and we couldn't do many, many things without you. Breaking records on giving days and giving nearly 80% of our annual giving each year. So we never want to miss an opportunity to say thank you. A reminder, though, that the end of the fiscal year is coming up on June 30th. So if you haven't made your gift or re-engaged in President's Council, there's still ample time. So thank you for that. And importantly, we want to make sure you have a save the date on your calendars for our big President's Council event in the fall, which is on November 9th, I believe. Somebody will correct me if I got that wrong, but I wrote it on my calendar. So love to see many, if not all of you there. And I think that's it. Sean, any last things we got to mention, or Donna? Otherwise...
No, I just want to say thank you to both of you, Dick and Donna. It's been great. And you guys have been excellent leaders. I really appreciate you've been helpful to me in my first year and helping me learn about Holy Cross and the President's Council, along with all my colleagues. And so we really appreciate your leadership. I want to take the opportunity to say that in front of all of our folks who have joined us today. And I'll just echo what you said about Tim. It's, Tim helped on the search committee that brought me to Holy Cross too. So it's a great loss for me personally. Tim is a leader. I was lucky to take his class called Jesuit, which is part of their opportunity to help train folks who are new to the Jesuit experience and to help extend the charisma of the Jesuits through the lay faculty and staff as well too. And it's tremendous. It's really great work, and I'm glad we could offer this webinar to everybody too.
Great.
Great, and congratulations on your first year being finished and all you've done to make Holy Cross stronger, Sean.
Thanks, Donna.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck to Peyton and Kathy. We were excited and we stand ready. Dick and I stand ready to help in any way we can.
Absolutely. All righty.
Thanks
Be
again,
well.
Dick.
Good evening. Thank you.
Dick's the
Bye-bye.
best. Yep.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.